Hello, parents, educators, and nerdy D&D fans. You have found our new home for Area of Effect, a talk show where we discuss how tabletop role-playing games benefit the whole family. We're currently in process of shifting all our old but golden episodes over to this new channel by posting a new episode every weekday until we catch back up to our new episodes. We would love your help getting this new channel up and running with a follow, share, or review. And thanks for joining us on our quest to bring more adventurers to the table.
Do you like dungeons?
If you kill us all in this dungeon, how are you gonna feel?
14 acid damage.
How about dragons?
Is there a dragon here, though?
There could be.
I'm Paul, the DM and producer of Make Believe Heroes, a 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons adventure for all ages. If you're looking for top quality production values, including music, sound effects, with humor, heart, and occasionally a bit of horror, then go now and check out Make Believe Heroes, a proud member of the Potteration Network.
Are you a parent or educator with little sidekicks saying,
"Will you play D&D with me?"
but you don't know how to start? Never fear, Story Guider is here. Made by any awarded TTRPG kids, Story Guider is a coloring book choose-your-own adventure for kids ages 2 through 7. It's a great way to introduce your young heroes to tabletop role-playing while also practicing social-emotional learning skills and other developmental skills along the way. Story Guider can be used with classrooms full of kids, in parent and child play, and even as an early reader solo adventure. All of the art is made by humans. Your mission is simple. Now through September, find Story Guider on backerkit.com to help bring the expansion and redesign to life, or visit ttrpgkids.itch.io to find the series anytime.
Are you ready for a fence? A Kids Table Podcast.
Welcome to Area of Effect, a podcast by the Kids Table, where we discuss how tabletop RPGs benefit kids and answer your questions about playing TTRPGs with the kids at your own table. Well, listeners, today we have a very special episode because I have two very special guests. I have Ben Costa and James Parks, who are authors, game enthusiasts, and TTRPG creators. They are the authors of the Rickety Stitch and the Gelatinous Goo graphic novel series, the Dungeoneer Adventures chapter book series, and they created the Land of Eam TTRPG, which just now has come out with a brand new beginner's RPG expansion called also Dungeoneer Adventures. How is it going today, Ben and James?
Hello. Thanks for having us on the podcast.
We're doing great. Thank you.
Good. Have you had your daily dose of TTRPGs? I know that you probably live and breathe it.
We do live and breathe TTRPG. Have we have our daily dose today?
Yeah. Like, have you played? Have you interacted with the world at all? Have you designed any characters?
Well, I have been doing a little bit of magic item design, actually.
Same.
Okay. Is this for a stretch goal?
It's actually for our Patreon.
Yeah, Patreon.
Okay.
Yeah, cool. Every month on Patreon, we produce new material. Some of it is expansion material for people that are already playing the core game, but a lot of it is like play testable. We try things out and share things really early with our patrons.
That's super cool. Well, your original game launched back in 2022. Can you walk me through, like, what was the inspiration for moving from book authors into the TTRPG world?
Well, James and I have known each other since the 2nd grade. We've been best of friends, and we always, even from a young age, we were creating like Spider-Man comics with crayons, and we just continued that collaboration together, making comics, making, short films in high school, and all the while we were playing Dungeons and Dragons and other role-playing games, and that was a huge part of how we told stories together, the collaborative storytelling with our friends and each other. And once we started making Rickety Stitch, we quickly started world building, and it naturally bled into all the games that we were playing.
Mm-hmm.
We would just create, lore and characters that were part of the Land of Eam, and just like, forcing it onto our friends, basically. But it was just so natural for us to decide to want to make a role-playing game dedicated to Land of Eam.
I love it. So do you guys have an ongoing campaign that you participate in now?
We do. We actually have an actual play between where that Ben is the GM and I play along with our lead playtester George Higgins, who's a buddy from college, who's also a writer and actually contributed to the adventures for our current Kickstarter.
Perfect.
And Peter Simon, another friend of ours, who is been in one of our RPG groups for a long time. So we've been playing for several years, and I think there's like hundreds of episodes of us now, like playing we're not YouTubers by any means, so it's just our personal game.
Okay.
But we share it with
We've
the world.
also we also play with the same kids who are now adults that we grew up with. So, James and I have known each other since second grade, but we also have a core group that have known each other for that long. And at this point, we play yearly. We go on a yearly vacation together, but we've got this long running. It's not like super there's
connected
not a huge continuity there, but it's
but
the same.
It contains all of the same inside jokes that we've been having since we were children.
That is incredible. It's a D&D annual vacation.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's awesome. Well, let's talk more about the Land of Eam. I was reading all about it, and I loved this description I came across. It's like Lord of the Rings with the Muppets. I found the world to be super colorful, playful, unique, silly, and still epic all at the same time. And your website describes the Land of Eam as a world that's both wacky and wondrous. Can you tell me, what do you think is unique about Dungeoneer Adventures that makes it stand out in your mind against other kids' TTRPGs out there?
Well, one thing about Dungeoneer Adventures is, so when Ben and I became fathers recently, like we both have little kids at home, we immediately were like, okay, we want to introduce our sons to TTRPGs. We want to have them experience some of the same kinds of adventures that we experience, the same growth, learning about creativity and conflict resolution, and just like that general connection that we had with our friends that lasts even today. And we're looking around,
and we want to do it as fast as possible.
And we want to do it as fast as possible. And so we ended up just engineering the game that we would want to have played as children, and the kind of game that we would want to play with our kids that could introduce them not just to the process of playing the game, but to the world of the Land of Eam. And setting it in the Dungeoneer Adventures series was an obvious choice for us because there's so much rich material to pull from. For listeners that don't know what Dungeoneer Adventures is, it's a book series from Simon & Schuster about a kid named Coop Cooperson, who's the only human kid that attends an adventure school in the Land of Eam to become a Dungeoneer explorer. And so that was a great backdrop for the game. And because the Land of Eam core game is all about creativity, problem solving, exploration, we knew that those were going to be core elements of this game. And in order to make that easy for parents to adopt, we needed to create a game that had a lot of resources that, helps a parent wrangle a kid for 30 minutes to an hour to play a session of a TTRPG that'll be really accessible to them. It's like, you've got pre-generated characters, so you don't have to go through the character creation process. And there's a lot of them, so you've got a lot of different choices. And a dice mechanic that's all about pushing the story forward and being successful or creating wacky moments, not just getting into a fisticuffs fight with a dragon.
There's also cards for items and adversaries and maps and structured adventures that parents can look to as a guide, and then I think that'll really help out creating your own adventures once you've got that formula down.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I love that it's designed for beginners because I don't know about you guys, but we get a lot of questions from our community from parents who are saying like, hey, my kid wants to play D&D, but I'm terrified to DM. It's so overwhelming. Like, I don't know where to start. I think this is a perfect solution. Can you explain a little more about your dice system that you said is more storyteller based? I know it's like a D12 system, correct?
That's right. It's a D12 and it has grades of success. So there's a chart in the core game that's, for instance, if you roll a 6 to 8, that's a success with a twist. If you roll a 3 to a 5, that's failure with a plus. So you don't do what you set out to do, but there's some other benefit that moves the story forward, and that's really the aim of the dice system, is to keep the action going. You never say, "Oh, I didn't do it. Now what do we do?" It's like, nope, something else is going to push the narrative forward. And so we kept that in Dungeoneer Adventures, but we made everything symbols on the die, so they're custom dice. You don't always have to look at the chart. You'll see like A plus, A minus. They're coded towards school letter grades, and we think that just this, it really just helps out being creative at the table, and it's not all on the GM or all on the players. It's like a group effort to come to a decision on what happens.
So to come up with the like result, what exactly does that mean, right? Like failure with a twist. You're saying that the players themselves are encouraged to like give a suggestion for what that might look like?
Yeah, totally.
That's right.
And ultimately the GM has the final say, but you keep doing this over and over as a GM. It can be sometimes hard to always have an answer. So more heads are better than one, and you always come up with things that you never would have thought of when you take suggestions from the table.
And when it comes to like utilizing abilities that characters might have, it's not based on a dice roll. We make it simple. Like if you have an ability, it'll say like it does this, and once per session you can do it. It just works. There's no like dice roll to determine the grade of its success or failure, so that kids can feel a little bit of, they can be encouraged to know that their adventurer has some specific skills and that they can do to benefit the party or succeed in their quest.
Yeah, you really feel the impact of it without having to, have the risk of failure.
Yeah, not taking the wind out of their sails.
Yeah, it sounds like this really streamlines and speeds up the pace of the game, because you're not taking the time to find what bonus do I add to that result of that dice roll and what does that mean, and looking up,
Yeah.
Rolling for the abilities. It sounds like it's like a kind of a more fast-paced game, which may be good for keeping kids' attention longer.
Yeah,
that was totally the goal.
Exactly our intention.
Awesome. I love that. What have you heard from your players, your play testers who have played with children? What have they shared about how this experience has been for them as a family and how they've seen their kids grow through playing the game?
That's a great question. That's one of the most exciting things that we get to see happen in our community. We've got a very robust and a very active Discord channel with a lot of parents that play the Land of Eam core game with their kids. And every day there is a story about how a kid becomes like really obsessed with this one element of something that was happening in the game, or they're thumbing through the books, looking at all the adversaries. And one thing it's always different. So there's always like a different answer to this question. But one thing that's for certain is that we're seeing kids really getting into the meat and potatoes of the Land of Eam setting, because so much of it is there and designed to feel alive in a way that like a standard D&D game may not have without an enormous amount of prep. And so the kids that are playing the Land of Eam core game, and I know we're also talking about Dungeoneer Adventures, but it's brand new, so it hasn't been played by the market yet. It's only been play tested. What we're seeing is that the fact that there's this element of creativity and collaborative creativity is sparking a lot of engagement with kids. And we constantly hear, oh my gosh, like my kid is really in love with Land of Eam. This has really got them interested, in the same way that we hear, my kid doesn't like to read, but they picked up Dungeoneer Adventures and they can't put it down. That's exactly what drives Ben and I's passion for the space and making these stories, is just hearing how much imagination gets sparked when kids start to engage with all the different angles of Land of Eam.
And what's really cool is that we've heard from some people like, oh, my 9-year-old wants to GM now, and they did great. And that's just, we started out that way. I mean, our friend was DMing when he was 9 years old, and looking back on that now, that's probably pretty rare, but it's really cool that Land of Eam is sort of facilitating that in some way.
Well, one thing that really struck me about your game is just like all the unique characters, species, classes, regions, adversaries, all of the really unique designs and how vibrant and like immediately draw the eye to all these characters. I'm wondering if you guys have a favorite that just makes you smile every time you come across it or it comes to mind.
It's a good question.
Um, well, I'm always tickled that the gelatinous goo is part of the core rule book. It's like one of the core folk that you can be.
Maybe
Not
one of the
only
most popular.
not only because it reflects our graphic novel series, Rickety Stitch and the Gelatinous Goo, but you don't see that everywhere where you can be like this little blob of jelly and just embody that as your personality and character.
Yeah, I don't know where I saw it, but I think someone on TikTok was talking about all the different folk that you can play in Land of Eam, and she was just like going off about like how there's like she's like I love to play like the little guy, but in Land of Eam I'm like spoiled for choice. It's like everyone's like the little guy that I want to be, and like the goo is probably my favorite, but I also like the mushroom. Like who doesn't
Mhm.
like a little mushroom guy?
I love it. I love it. So I guess there's not too much emphasis on the practicality of a ball of goo somehow adventuring across the land.
They can be adventurous too.
I love it. Beautiful.
If they can be
Uh,
the monster, why can't they also be the hero?
that's beautiful. That really gives like a new twist on just the idea of the monster, the typical quintessential monsters that you encounter in TTRPGs. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, write that down, James. We got to use that.
I forgot already.
I'll write it down for you. Make a t-shirt. So many of our listeners are actually aspiring or even current kids TTRPG creators. And I just have to say, I've been
Awesome.
so tickled by how many more like kid-focused TTRPGs are coming out. Because even like when we started in 2022, probably same time you guys did, and there was nothing. And that's like why we started, because Ryan and I had little kids and we were listening to Adventure Zone and Critical Role and stuff like that. And suddenly we're like, I can't really share this with my kid just yet. So what can we do to make TTRPGs more accessible for kids? And at the time, I couldn't find anything. But
Yeah.
now I feel like it's exploding, and Land of Eam is a huge contribution to that. But anyway, that was a roundabout way of saying for our audience that are TTRPG creators, can you share like what was the most challenging and maybe the most surprising part of your creation and production process?
First of all, I think I'm just as excited as you are because when we were growing up, it was like we played Dungeons and Dragons second edition, which we still love dearly, but it's like kind of a lot for like little
Yeah.
kid to grasp. It's, you know,
Yeah, we were playing it wrong for years.
playing it wrong for years and like I would pour over the wizard's handbook or whatever and not really even fully grasp everything that I was reading. So the fact that there are so many creators now that are engaging with creating TTRPG options for kids is really exciting. This is an exciting time for the whole space, and that just can't go without being said again. It's amazing. Um, as far as advice though, Ben, like that's a good
Well, one
question.
one of the most challenging things is to play test with kids and get that feedback.
Yeah.
Uh, and so that's when you can. That's always super valuable. Um, and luckily we had this tried and true game that we've been play testing for 6 or 7 years now. So we knew that the core element of Land of Eam is strong, and it's really just about peeling back some of the more complicated things.
I think another thing was, and jumping on the peeling back, and paring down, I should say, a lot of fruit rind management, is that truly understanding that the game needs to be designed around a shorter attention span. There's lots to compete with in the world that's outside of a kid's attention span as it is. And Land of Eam is this gigantic world. It's huge. It's gigantic and it's getting bigger every year. But we needed a way to keep the focus on a small aspect of the game to bring it down so that all of the material for the kids, all of the material for the adults is designed in a way to support that this session may only be 30 minutes long and it'll still be super exciting and fun. So truncating it all down, like editing it down to that core, this will be a short, fun blast, and maybe they'll want to keep going, or maybe they'll want to become a GM themselves. That's great, but design it to be in a little capsule, and that was a challenge.
Yeah, also to just know who we're talking to in the rule book. Maybe this section is definitely just for the parents, and this section is more kids are probably going to read this part. And so just having that voice match that was a bit of a challenge. It's been surprising just hearing the feedback in our Discord about how people are really digging the world that we've created and itching to jump into this Dungeoneer Adventures setting, which is set in a school. So it's sort of like this built-in campaign premise that all the kids are, students, and they're learning how to become full-fledged Dungeoneers. They're taking courses and they're earning these badges.
And it has its own sandbox too, which just makes it more accessible for parents to give them the material that they need to kind of to make games quick and easy and accessible, and just all those resources that can be taken for granted of when you're trying to play a game with a kid, because not every kid's game and not every game out there just has so much material you could immediately pull from to play with. And that was a real focus of ours. Make it accessible and easy.
Yeah, I think that's important for kids TTRPGs because some parents have never played D&D or watched a game, and others have been playing since they were kids, like you guys. So I think it's great to have like here's the training wheel program where you can just like follow this adventure and draw this card, and we're going to lay everything out for you. But then when you're ready for the more advanced one, or if you've been playing your whole life and you're immediately ready for the more advanced one, here's the sandbox tools that you can put together whatever you want. Whatever kind of story you want. Can you guys speak to a little bit of the other products besides the beginner RPG that you have? I know you do have a couple different sandbox campaign settings. Can you share about that a little bit?
Sure. Yeah. The first one that we released was the Mucklands sandbox setting, which is a 450-page tome that is designed to be more of a reference book than a campaign setting that you would read and then run.
Okay.
It's designed for as much or for as little prep as possible, with the world still feeling like it's alive. So it's got hundreds
paired
of
with
characters.
a map
Okay.
with a bunch of locations, and it's all about travel across the map. And like James was saying, there's tons of locations. It's very NPC focused. So you flip to a page, you see the location, the general gist of what's going on, all the NPCs that you can meet, and the various quests that they might share with you. So it's really about emergent play at the table, where you're kind of discovering and following the whims of the players. And it's not really about, I mean, you can plan everything out and like run it like a traditional D&D campaign, but it really sings when you're sort of letting the setting surprise you.
Yeah, I think that speaks to one of my concerns as a DM when I'm just doing a homebrew campaign. I've planned out this whole crime syndicate that they're trying to take down, and it's in this one specific area, but then, oops, they decided to go to a totally different area, and it doesn't really make sense for the crime syndicate to be there. So it's so cool that your world is so rich and varied that, like, if you thought you were playing in town A, but then they decide to go to city B, then it's right there, So it kind of takes away, I think, that anxiety on a DM's part of like, what if they go off track and I have to come up with stuff on the fly?
Yeah, totally. And one of the reasons it got as big as it got is because it makes it fun for the GM to explore the world with the PCs. Like you're right there with you. They're exploring it and discovering these random encounters are just as surprising to them, and what's going on in this town is just as surprising to them. And so that makes it fun to run the games too.
Cool. Can you really quickly address the combat system? Because we talked about how it seems like it's faster, but it also seems like players are more encouraged to come to peaceful solutions. Is that true?
That's absolutely true. The conflict system in the Land of Eam is all about being creative. So the different phases, combat is the last of the phases.
Okay. What are the
Yeah.
early phases?
So you start out with the conflict. There are 4 phases, and anyone who wants to parlay and negotiate can do so first. Adversaries usually have like a parlay score, how many times you can do that. It's not unlimited. So you can give your best shot, and oftentimes you'll be able to just avoid a conflict if you have, a good reason, and the adversary agrees with you, and like you come to a resolution. After that, the second phase is improvise, where anyone who wants to do something out of the ordinary, if they want to, let's say there's a contested item, you want to go after the contested item, or lock a door, or do anything non-combat. After that is flee. If you want to run, now's the time to do it. The last phase is combat. So all the adversaries, if they're intent on fighting you, they'll go last, and any PCs who want to fight as well will go last in the phase, and it just repeats after that.
That's cool. That's a great way to walk through it and simplify it.
Yeah, and it makes it so it doesn't feel like a slog every time. Like every time you're getting into an encounter, like it can go various different ways.
Well, is there anything else you want to share before we get into how our listeners can find you?
Well, we recently had some kind of big news that blew us away. Land of Eam was nominated for 5 Ennies this year.
Wow, congratulations.
Which was very unexpected, but humbling as well, because we're in the company of so many amazing creators and artists and designers. It's wild. But that was news to us. So that's something.
That's incredible. Congratulations. and best of luck.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. We're going to Gen Con in a couple weeks. Hopefully it goes well.
Yeah.
Great. I voted for you guys already, just, behind the scenes.
Well, thank you for that. Oh my goodness gracious.
No problem. So as we wrap up here, how can our listeners both get your products, because I know this podcast is coming out after the conclusion of your Kickstarter. So I don't know the process there. And then also, how can they find you on socials, and how can they vote?
We've been nominated for 5 categories. We've been nominated for Monsters and Adversaries with the Land of Eam Bestiary, Product of the Year, which is wild.
Wow.
Best Family Game, Best Cartography, and then Best Production Values.
Wow.
And that's probably has to do with the deluxe box set being the monster that it is. But it's got a nice slipcase with all 3 of the books, and it's a whole world ready to be unwrapped.
What an affirmation, even just to be nominated.
Yeah, no, it was a really big deal for Ben and I. We work in our little hidey hole for so many years on these projects, and then suddenly like everybody's loving on it, and it feels really good. Feels
Very
really
cool.
good. We got the best community in the world on Discord, like I said. So if you're looking to play Land of Eam or get to know the game, you can download our quick start guide for free at landofelim.com and check out the Discord and ask questions. Super supportive community, tons of people playing games with their kids. I can't even express how many people are playing games with their kids. Just like every day something. And as far as the Kickstarter, I imagine that there's late pledges and pre-order options that are going to be live on the site after the campaign ends. So check it out. They've got the Dungeon Adventures beginners game and the Underlands campaign sandbox, which pairs perfectly with it because they both take place in the same realm.
That sounds great. And your website is just thelandofeam.com, right?
That's right.
Perfect.
And you can find us on YouTube. We do a lot of videos of
And your
advice.
lifetime actual play campaign.
Yeah, we have a giant like very unpolished, unproduced game where we actually just play Land of Eam. And then we also have a podcast called The Wizards of Eam where Ben and I just give our 2 cents on the RPG industry and a lot of the decisions of the design and of Land of Eam and its world.
Awesome. Well, go check that out. Thanks for joining me today, Ben and James. It's been a real pleasure.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thank you
We
for
really
having us,
appreciate it.
Allison.
Thanks for listening to Area of Effect. Check out our original actual play D&D show with kids at the table on YouTube, social media, or your favorite podcast app. Be a part of the ongoing conversation by emailing your questions to questions@thekidstabledd.com. Find resources to bring the adventure to your own table at www.thekidstabledd.com. And join our quest to bring more kids to the D&D table at patreon.com/thekidstabledd. Because when kids are at the table, everyone wins.